Over more than a century of history, the submarines have repeatedly encountered each other and often engaged in combat. In all that time, there has been only one underwater battle. A unique encounter for the submarine fleet occurred at the end of World War II off the coast of Norway. On the 9th of February 1945, the British submarine Venturer torpedoed and sank the German submarine U-846 carrying a cargo of strategic raw materials for Japan. In December 1944, in Germany began an operation codenamed Caesar. The purpose of the operation was to transfer advanced technology and scarce raw materials to Japan. The only option to reach Japan was to use large ocean submarines. There was no chance to break through to the shores of Japan by ship at the time. The submarine was to deliver to Japan the blueprints and parts for modern jet fighters, as well as German-made jet engines. Several German and Japanese designers were also on board the submarine. The most dangerous cargo aboard the German submarine was mercury. The 1,835 containers full of mercury were loaded on the submarine, for a total of, and there were about 65 tons of mercury on board. The rare metal was vital for the Japanese war industry. A delicate and dangerous mission was entrusted to a large ocean-going submarine Type 9 Series D2 number U-864 commanded by the 32-year-old corvette captain Ralph Ryman Wolfram. The combat voyage of February 1945 was the first and last one. The British submarine Venturer was dispatched to the area of Fedje Island on the basis of an intercepted and deciphered by British intelligence German radio program. The British submarine was ordered to find and sink the German submarine U-864 with strategic cargo for Japan on board. The 25-year-old Lieutenant Jimmy Landers was in command of the submarine and had been actively involved in military campaigns since March 1944, sinking several German and Norwegian merchant ships in a German U-771 on the 11th of November 1944. On February 8, the British were able to ascertain the coordinates and course of the German submarine by intercepting a message from U-864, which reported back to base due to diesel engine malfunction. The Germans had decided to return to their base, and on February 9, 1945, the two submarines met. In the morning, the acoustician aboard the Venturer heard propeller noise, with Lieutenant Landers deciding not to use sonar so as not to give himself away. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, the British sailors used their periscope to spot the German U-boat. At that moment, the U-864 also picked up the periscope, trying to find the German ships that should have escorted him to the base. At that time, the U-864 was using only one engine with the snorkel. After waiting a while, the Landers at 10:50 declared a battle alert. By that time, he had still insufficient data to carry out a torpedo attack. The Venturer commander knew only the bearing on the target, but he also needed to get course data, speed and distance to the target. The Venturer began moving in a parallel course to the right of the German submarine, and this pursuit continued long enough. Lieutenant Landers hoped that the German submarine would surface, making it an easy target for an attack. It soon became clear that the Germans were not planning to surface. The U-864 was zigzagging, and on board the submarine probably knew about that there was an enemy submarine nearby. Using the indirect information they received about the change of the bearing to the target depending on the maneuvers of his own submarine, Landers was gradually able to estimate the distance to the target as well as the speed of the U-864. Landers carried out the calculations with the means available to him. It is believed that the British officer used a tool of his own invention, which was a specialized version of a circular logarithmic ruler. It wasn't until after the end of World War II, this same instrument and the method of entering a torpedo-bearing attack would become standard practice. It took Commander Venturer 3 hours to believe that he had sufficiently studied the zigzag motion and stroke parameters of the U-846. At noon 12:12 p.m. the submarine Venturer fired a 4-torpedo fan salvo to a calculated point with the torpedoes deployed on course and depth. Torpedo release interval 17.5 seconds. on the German submarine, heard the noise of the torpedoes coming in and began an evasive maneuver into the depths. The first 3 torpedoes missed their target, but the 4th torpedo secured a direct hit in the sail area. At 12:14 a.m., Lieutenant Landers recorded in the ship's log that he heard the loud sound of an explosion followed by sounds of hull collapse. The British submarine's acoustics officer reported he could no longer hear the sound of the German submarine's propellers. From the impact and explosion of a torpedo, the hull of the German submarine broke in two and the submarine sank at a depth of about 150 meters. Together with the submarine were killed 73 people, all who were on board. For this successful attack, which was the only one of its kind, both submarines were underwater. Lieutenant Landers received Britain's highest award. German submariners were killed at depth of 150 meters 2 miles off the Norwegian island of Fedje. And the Norwegians got a big environmental problem that worries that they are still concerned about today. And today there is no consensus on what to do with the submarine and its dangerous cargo.